Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Venus making a square opposition or inconjunct aspect to one's natal Mercury. Now, when we're talking about transits that involve Venus, this could be about our love, enjoyment, money, possessions, resources, values, our self-worth, self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves. And when you have the transit of Venus, basically making an adverse aspect to Mercury, when I say basically, so I can elaborate on this, of course, squares and oppositions are adverse, but when you talk about inconjuncts, they can be neutral, but they do involve adjustments. So I see this aspect, these aspects collectively generally are adverse. And when you have the transit of Venus making basically again an adverse aspect to your natal Mercury, well, this may manifest in the love, could be enjoyment, our money, resources, possessions, our values, self-worth, self-esteem, how you feel about yourself. This may conflict with your communications. You might be doing some organizing with your possessions or trying to acquire more or doing something monetary related that might be delaying your communications at this point in time. Mercury is also about assimilating information. It might be a time, Venus is about what we enjoy. So it might be a time where you're not exactly enamored with processing information, assimilating information. You might want your mind maybe to relax a little bit more so than usual at this time. And it might be more difficult to analyze, understand certain relationships at this time, whether they might be romantic relationships or could simply be significant friendships. They might be, whether it might be the motives or intentions of these people. Say the transit Venus is in Scorpio as an example. It could be a person that might be very secretive or mysterious, and you don't really, that you feel that they're, suppressing a lot of things about his or herself, and it could make it, difficult to understand. If transit Venus is in Pisces, it could be somebody that, that can be mysterious as well, and a person that might simply be very unclear and nebulous to you. Also, too, Mercury is connected with siblings, cousins, neighbors, people that were prominent in one's early education. It might be people that are prominent in your short journeys. And this could be a time where where it could be monetary situation may conflict with activities with these people. It could be whether maybe you have limitations in money and you're not able to enjoy the time with these people perhaps during this transit, or it may mean that you might be dominated by things of a monetary nature, matters with possessions, and it could be where that might be conflicting with possible activities with the people I described. Maybe those things are taking precedence over that right now. And the thing about this too is remember that Venus can be about our feelings and sentiments as well. So these things might be a little bit harder to articulate and verbalize more so than usual during this transit. Now, Mercury is also associated with short journeys and local transportation. So it could be a time where it might be difficulty finding the monetary end means to really to transport yourself, or money maybe to fix a vehicle might be harder to come by more so than usual. And the thing is, it could even be relationships, whether they're romantic ones or a significant friendship, might be interfering with maybe some short journeys or some errands that you may be trying to attempt at this point in time. Now, anatomically speaking, Mercury is connected with the hands, the arms, the lungs, breathing, nerves, and eyesight. So it can be a time where if you're having any issues with these things anatomically, what I just described, it might be something that might really be conflicting with any kind of enjoyment that you might be trying to engage in. Say if transit Venus is in Sagittarius as an example, it could be doing things outdoors or something sports related, or going to, being involved in a religious congregation. It could be even publishing in some cases. Another thing too, where well, when you look at this as well, Mercury is also associated with our rational mind, rational thinking at this time. And it could be that maybe if you're involved with somebody romantically or a significant other, maybe this person is affecting, adversely affecting your rational thinking. I mean, if it's, say, if it's transit Venus is in Virgo, it might be somebody that might be everything but a compulsive complainer, a person might be overly judgmental or critical, and might be driving you figuratively crazy at this time and really affecting your rational mind and rational thinking. Now, Mercury is also again connected with our early education, so it might be a time where you might be, it might be at this time, it could be maybe if there's somebody that you had that you consider maybe a significant friendship from that time, might be having a harder time, reaching out to you at this time, or maybe you don't really enjoy being around, those people from your, early education, at this time, because Venus is again connected with our enjoyment and our fun and things we love. Um, May also be Mercury is also connected with theft, and remember that Venus is monetary matter, so it's exceptionally, it's really important to be extra prudent and careful at this time that you don't wind up having, possessions that might, go missing, and be very careful, more guarded in your home, your belongings and where you're going in your short journeys, and it's might be more significant than usual to avoid areas that are very crime ridden. Now, this transit may also manifest in, really, you might not really love or enjoy mental class at this time. It might be a time, like say for example, if if your natal Mercury is in Gemini, it might be matters with brain teasers or trying to figure out what might be wrong, with a vehicle, whether it's the alternator or it's something with the muffler or exhaust pipe or what have you. This could be a time where you're not exactly enamored with trying to figure things out and using the brain at this time. And relationships at this time, they may conflict. It could be with activities that are connected with siblings, cousins, neighbors, people that were prominent in your early education. Um, it could be people that you know well in your short journeys. Now, say if, for example, transit Venus is in Taurus, it could be very persistent and stubborn people in your relationships. It could be a time too during this transit. Another way this transit might be expressed, there may be more difficulty in finding enjoyment in your communications at this time. You might not necessarily feel like talking at this time. And let's say, for example, if your natal Mercury is in Virgo in the fifth house, it could be maybe you don't feel like talking about maybe extrapolating sports data or, trying to, verbally, analyze your children or lovers at this time, talking about it, analytically, using, a lot of details, matters with children or again with lovers, or it can also be, it might be harder to articulate your sentiments at this time and feelings about things. Now, say if transit Venus is in Capricorn, if you're feeling somewhat melancholy or despondent or dejected, it might be harder to verbalize this more so than usual. Another thing too, anatomically speaking, Venus is connected with the lower back, the kidneys, the throat, the neck, the thyroid. If you're having any issues with these, this might present a challenge or conflict with driving or mobility in general. It might be wearing you down to a point. Means the lower back could be a pain, big time, really. And if you're trying to drive those, that could something I can understand. That could really exasperate somebody and affect your short journeys at this time. And even, if you have issues, I mean, and even if you're trying to write or communicate, it might cause more aggravation in trying to even do that if you're having any of these Venus related issues at this time. In negotiations and matters with compromise may be, a little bit more, you know, difficult to come by with third, Mercury type people, such as siblings, cousins, neighbors. It might be harder to negotiate matters and find a compromise or reconciliation with these people. Um, at this time, if if Pisces is involved, it might be something deceptive or duplicitous or some kind of betrayal. That you don't really quite understand. I mean, Gemini could simply be some prevarication or some lie that went down. Taurus could be a really strong monetary matter or some with your possessions at this time. Um, is where you might be trying to find some kind of agreement or trying to, reconcile issues with these people. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Leonard saying stay well.